My name's Simon Furman. I'm the writer on the original Transformers comic book, and I'm now writing a new series called The War Within for Dreamwave. Well, my dream project would be to write either for film or for TV. I mean, I've written TV animation, but I'd love to do live action TV or live action movie scripting. Just something where, I mean, it was a big kick when I first started in animation, just to hear my lines being spoken out loud. So to actually see actors doing it would be very cool indeed. I'm a big sort of Pulp Fiction, Raymond Chandler, Private Eye, film noir fan, so to write a sort of crime movie or TV series would be absolutely the business for me. If I'm looking to expand the Transformers universe, it's only going deeper into the sort of backstory. I mean, it's such a cool setup anyway, but what I want to do with Transformers this time around is just take it one step into the sort of the guts of the story, just to show the real background behind this war, behind the sort of ongoing conflicts between the characters. I mean, you know, we know the story, we know the sort of greater story, but what we don't know are, you know, the real motives, the things that set it in motion, the grudges, the bad blood, the interaction between the characters. I like to think that my Transformers stories just have a lot of character stuff going on them. You know, I mean, yes, there's going to be a quota of big robots hitting each other, but what I really want to do is make sure that people care about these characters, that the characters have depth, that you want to know why these characters are doing what they do, which is why, again, I just want to get inside the story and understand why these characters are fighting this war, and did they all choose to fight this war? Do some of them not want to fight the war? And just have this kind of ongoing, you know, sort of scraping away at the surface of the story. I think the character that I'd probably always say to people that, you know, I write the most naturally or easily is definitely Grimlock. There's something about his sort of surly, cantankerous, you know, sort of spitting nature that I just seem to understand. I mean, I hope I'm not like that myself, but I do seem to understand this guy. He's in the middle of a situation. He's on the side of the good guys, but he's not necessarily a good guy. And I love that kind of contradiction, that he's, you know, he's wanting to do the right thing, but there's a little bit in him that really isn't that guy at all. So he's having to sort of bottle that up, and it translates itself into this gruff, surly, you know, sort of ill-tempered guy. My favourite question, I think, would be always, you know, how much interaction did we have with Hasbro during the creation of the original comic book? And the story that I always tag onto this is one time, just to see how closely Hasbro were looking at what we were handing in, we played a kind of April Fool's gag on them. We wrote a synopsis for a story that was totally unbelievable. You know, sort of all the characters die in it. There were giant nuns in it, mechanical sheep running around the Ark loaded with explosives, and the whole thing ends with every character obliterated. So we sent it off, waited for the explosion, and what came back was, we have some concerns about this story. And, you know, it took ages for them to explain that this was an April Fool's gag and we weren't serious about it. But, you know, I give them their credit. They took it in really good spirit. I think the thing with Dreamwave is it has a real ground level feel to it. With Marvel, they were established, they were up and running. You know, sort of they'd been doing comic books for a long time. They'd been doing Transformers for some 55 issues before I came on board. So there was a feeling of, I'm just picking up something that's ongoing here. With Dreamwave, it's much more, it's entry level, it's ground level. It's like you feel you can kind of start from almost a clean slate with it. So it's refreshing in that respect. I mean, it would be fun to pick up some of the storylines that I used to do, but with Dreamwave starting from scratch, what you've got is a very sort of easy sort of read for people just coming into it for the first time. I mean, hopefully it will appeal to long-time fans as well. But what Dreamwave, and I think I want with these books, is that somebody who's never read a Transformers comic book before, never read a comic book before, could pick it up, understand what's going on, and not feel they've got 80 issues of something they haven't read before. When the Dreamwave comic first came out, you know, obviously we were very interested. I mean, myself, Titan Books, who are doing the Transformers reprints, you know, we wanted to see what the sort of the new buzz on the comic was. So we were watching the Diamond figures very closely, and, you know, sort of I think we got it from the internet first, one of the news groups, but, you know, so suddenly it's like it's the #1 selling comic book, and we just couldn't believe what we were seeing, because we thought it would do well, but just never conceived it would do this well. And I think Dreamwave was surprised as well. My relationship with Titan Books is very close. Originally I took the whole project to them before really this sort of the retro buzz had started with Transformers and all things 80s. You know, it had been my dream for ages to especially get the issues I'd written back into collected editions. So I took the idea to Titan, gave them the facts and figures, showed them there was an audience out there, and they were very receptive. So since then, they've basically kept me going as a sort of ongoing consultant on the series, just to make sure that we are putting the right issues together, we're providing the right background material for the books, we're getting the artists, we're just keeping the whole sort of contact going. We're running introductions by all the sort of original artists and creators. So there's a real package feel to this, and sort of everybody's pooling their resources on it. When we're looking at sort of getting the artists and the writers involved with this book, I'm doing a lot of the original contact material with them, but I think sort of it's a team effort. Titan are doing a lot of the background stuff, but I'm using a lot of my contacts just to actually get talking to these guys again, get them interested in sort of stuff that they hadn't seen for 10 years or more. There was a time when Andrew Wildman and myself were both sort of just feeling that we were doing all just company business, so we were really keen just to get something of our own off the ground. The marketplace for comic books was just not good for new projects, so we thought, well, we'll do this one way or the other. So we looked on the idea of internet publishing. It's a low maintenance, low cost start for actually getting new stuff out there. So we formed a company which was Wild Fur. We came up with our first concept, which was the engine, and we basically put 2 websites up and running. New strip, features, background material. It was almost like a shop window for stuff we're doing. So Wild Fur, if anything at the moment, it's not making huge amounts of money, but it is a nice shop window for sort of projects that we're doing, other projects that we're doing as well. But it's starting to get a real sort of company feel to it now. We've now got 4 projects, the engine, and 3 new projects, all of which are kind of in various stages of development. So we're now looking at the stage where we're hopeful that other people will come on board and say, yes, we want to do this in a different medium, we want to do comics, we want to do games, we want to have this for our own internet portal, which is one possibility. So it's starting to gain momentum, and we're looking to do our own merchandise. So Wild Fur is from a slow start, and it's fitted in around other things we're doing, so the progress has sometimes been slow. But it's just starting, I think, to sort of really get its own momentum going. We tried not to just do straight comic books with Wild Fur and the engine. We wanted something that really worked for computers. We didn't just want sort of flat artwork and where you scroll down and it's the wrong shape for the screen. And we also wanted something that was a little more interactive, so not just flat art. So the engine strip, when you look at it online, has a little bit of animation, with flash animation. It has a little bit of sound, a little bit of sort of flowing images, text appears, balloons fade out, so there is a high degree of stuff happening on this strip that isn't just flat artwork. I think just generally I'm hopeful most of all the things that are happening at the moment with the Dreamwave work, just because, like I said before, it has that entry-level feel of you can actually make something here. If you go into, say, a Spider-Man book or an X-Men, you've got a whole slew of people behind you who've done this and more to come. But there feels like, sort of this is a chance to prove yourself on your own merits a lot more than, say, with a Marvel or a DC book. And, that's what I'm most excited about at the moment. When I came to my first BotCon, it was a strange experience, all told. I had no idea there was this huge fan base. I'd worked on Transformers for some 15 years, and I just didn't realise that people were so into this still. So, my first one was a little bit of a daze. I wandered around thinking, wow, how wonderful that these people are so into this. By the time I came to my second one, I was a little more savvy with the ways of things. But, my feeling with each progressive BotCon, as they get bigger, as the interest with Transformers gets greater, it seems, is, just how wonderful it is to be a part of all this. And with this latest one, the overwhelming feeling is, with all these other ones, I was kind of like yesterday's writer or yesterday's creator. So there's a nostalgia feel to my being here, but this year there feels to be a kind of positive, happening now involvement with all this. And so, if anything, this is, the one I've enjoyed most of all, and we're only sort of, the morning into it, but I feel so much more involved.
favorite toy line besides Transformers would have to be G.I. Joe from the 80s. I really liked all the characters and the layers with the good and bad guys. Any toy line with a ton of characters is cool. The main difference between Armada and other Transformer lines is our co-development with Takara, which is intended for a worldwide release with all the same product, the same TV show, consistent at the outset, versus one market starting it and another market picking it up. Some parts of co-developing have been good, and some parts are a little bit of a challenge, but for the most part, both markets are fairly similar. But for instance, there's vehicles in Japan that aren't popular in America, such as trains, and vehicles that are popular in America that aren't popular in Japan, like race cars or monster trucks. So we have to make deals back and forth of what vehicles we might do to maximize both markets' needs. The Armada toy that I'm most proud of is probably the Megatron. I think he's got a lot of features. The play that we've introduced this year with Armada is the Minicons, and he holds 10 Minicons. You can trap them, and you can stick them all over and really armor him up. And I think it's just he's an interesting character, and bad guys are always very cool because of their look alone. When Hasbro designs a new toy line, it usually takes upward to a year and a half, sometimes quicker because of a movie release, sometimes a long time because of an intricate play pattern. Transformers, with all the back and forth with Takara and animation development and everything else, it's a little bit longer, but all in all, it's a lot of product in a short amount of time. When we go into creating a new line, we have a list of price points we want to hit, and we'll go at it at a variety of different ways to get to those products. Sometimes we'll have a cool image that we want to make a toy. Sometimes we'll have cool models that we then design around a cool model. So it goes back and forth any number of ways. With the Generation 1 re-releases, there's a big nostalgia factor right now with Transformers and 80s toys in general. We see that with G.I. Joe also. I think people want to, those kids that bought those toys in the 80s are now going into their late 20s and have a little bit of money and want to regain some of their childhood, if you will, and offering these products again in commemorative boxes gives them that chance to have a toy they've lost or never had when they were a child. When we design a toy line, sometimes projects come and go. Transtech, for example, was a toy line that we started developing, and it just didn't make sense for where we wanted to take Transformers. It was going to be a continuation of Beast Machines, and we decided to take the line in a different direction, back to its roots, which is vehicle-on-vehicle play. And because of that, we abandoned some of those earlier thoughts for Transtech. It's hard for me to answer whether another Transformers movie will ever be made. I primarily focus on the Hasbro end of the design, and those decisions are made corporately and with movie studios, so I'm not probably the right person to answer. I hope they do, though. They make great toys. The main difference between BotCon and other collector shows is that BotCon is totally dedicated to Transformer fans and robot fans, so these people that come to this show are really the die-hard collectors and people that really love what we do and Hasbro does with the Transformer toys and show. The other conventions are great, but they also cater to a lot of different varied interests. So this one's it's just great to see all the people that come here for one purpose, and that's Transformers. The difference between Beast Wars that I worked on several years ago and Transformers Armada, which I work on now, is that the forms are so different. And because of the organic form of Beast Wars versus the vehicle forms of Transformers Armada, really makes us change how we do our toys. And each has its own merits, but the organic shapes are definitely harder to hide an animal foot or tail versus it is a tailpipe or something robotic looking in nature, being a mechanical vehicle. But the process for both is pretty much the same, working in tandem with Takara in Japan and making great toys.
My favorite character to draw and why would be probably Megatron, because he's my favorite, Decepticon for one. And number two, I've memorized how to draw like him inside out, so if I was asked to draw him like full body shot, it wouldn't be a problem whatsoever. So he's the most fun to draw just because he's simplistic, and he has attitude, and it's great to draw characters physically, and facial movements with that kind of characteristic. So my reaction to hitting the #1 sales was, we were all astonished, and we were all really excited and happy that we were given the opportunity to #1 just work on Transformers alone, but to hit the #1 sales charts was just unbelievable for us. I mean, and to have it consistently was something that we were totally unaware of. Didn't think that it was possible, but for a publishing company that just had formed, it was something that we were very surprised and not prepared for, to hit #1 sales. So it was exciting all in all, and everyone in the office was absolutely, everyone was celebrating and busting out the champagne and everything. So it was quite a thrill for all of us. I think the hardest part about breaking away from any publishing company or any studio would be just to really have the guts to do it. I mean, it's not. A lot of people believe that they have, a lot of people have the opportunity to break free from different companies, from publishing companies, but there's a lot at risk and there's a lot at stake, and you really have to find, the right project to work with in order to make such a big move. Comic industry isn't as good as it used to be, and it becomes a very difficult situation once you exit out of any publishing company that's already established. And so for you to exit or to leave a company like that and to break that mold, it's got to be worthwhile. And for us, Transformers was the key component to, one of the key components of leaving our past publisher. The interesting thing was, when we were breaking away, it wasn't Transformers, it was us. We've always wanted to break away for the past year and a half. And we were fortunate enough to actually get the license after we had already broken free. So we weren't even sure if we had received the license or if we achieved getting the license yet until after Dreamwave had broken free from Image publication. Then approximately 5 or 6 days after is when we actually received the license. It was all purely, we were very, very fortunate and very lucky to, for all that to happen at once. And although it may have been our plans to leave with a concept and idea that we wanted to, buy certain licenses, none of them had landed at the time when we just had left. Only days after or a week after did we realize that Transformers was in our hands. I work 18 hours a day, including weekends. I've never been on vacation before. My first vacation will be in Japan in December. I not only pencil, Transformers, I have to help run the business. I have to make sure our books are on time. If they need me for edits or touch-ups, I do that. So, I mean, if it was just Transformers on time, I'd be at issue number 20-something. But because I'm usually quick, I'm fast. I can produce a page every 2-3 hours. So, and if necessity, or just 3 days ago, I did 6 pages in one day. I mean, that wasn't just Transformers, that was multiples of different covers and whatnot. But it's very hectic. It's a very hectic job, and I try to get things out on time and do the best job that I can with the time constraints that I only have. And at the office, I get a lot of help from my guys, and we all work very tightly with one another. And I don't get tired of it, and I'm very happy and still love what I'm working on now. And I have a lot of goals in my life, and this is just one goal that we've achieved. So we're very happy where we are. Drawing or designing? Yeah. I'd probably say design. mainly because I started off as being a designer when I was very young, before I even was a comic book illustrator. I loved designing and animation. I mean, I love comics still, but if it really had to boil down to which one, I'd probably say designing. Not only Transformers, but anything design, whether it be architecture or whether it be, gaming, or, we've done film design. We did some Janet Jackson stuff for music video. We did some designs for movies, video games. We did all kinds of stuff, and it's great. Not only are we a publishing company, but we're a designing staff as well. And so if we're on call to do something, and we have enough time, we'd do it. BotCon has been really, it's my first time, and I've never really experienced anything like this, but I've noticed that my eyes have been non-stop focusing on the products. I mean, when you go to San Diego, there's things that you're interested, things that you're not interested in, so it's it's a 50-50 thing, but when you come to BotCon and, everything is Transformers and you're a big fan of Transformers, you want to buy everything, or as much as you can buy. So, I mean, this is quite a large area, but it's nothing like San Diego. But here, it's I find that my eyes are more focused on, the tables more than at San Diego. So it's more enjoyable for me. So I'm able to spend more time and kind of nitpick the little things and make my purchases. In terms of lineups or signings, I haven't signed yet today, so I wouldn't really know. But New York was our best signing ever. I mean, there was 1,000 people at one store, and it was just unreal for us. So it's I mean, I haven't been here that long yet, so I'm assuming that the rest of the show will be awesome.
How we wanted to try to make BotCon 2002 a little bit different than 2001, we wanted to have more of a presence from Hasbro and more from some of the official licensees, such as Dreamwave. We also wanted to have kind of a mixture of guests from G1 voice actors and the new Robots in Disguise voice actors. The floor size has greatly increased over last year, and the last time we had it in Fort Wayne, which was 2 years ago, it's increased by the dealer room. The dealer space has increased by 9,000 square feet. This is by far the most number of dealer tables we have. I think 134 this year, up over 120 maybe the previous year. From a strictly organizational standpoint, I think it's gone much smoother with staffing. Even though we've had a small staff, it's been very dedicated in getting everything organized, everyone where they need to be, and making sure things run smoothly. I've been to the convention since 1994, and I honestly think this is probably the best run convention as far as getting people through lines and in and out of rooms and such. The feedback that we've gotten back from Hasbro has been very, very positive. They really enjoy the show, the size and the scope and the quality of the things that we bring to the show. The voice actors, have gone out of their way to do whatever we want them to do, as far as being here for their panel, being there for their autograph session, roaming around, talking to fans. Dreamwave has been fantastic, just signing whatever they need to do, strong presence from them. And generally it's been well complimented throughout the weekend.
Some of the things that we decided to change were actually late decisions based on the amount of people that we had signing up. There were certain organizational aspects of it to try and make things flow smoothly, more smoothly than they might have under previous systems in the past with fewer people. As far as any merchandise or guests goes, we always try and keep up with the most current voice actors or other notable personalities that are in the Transformers market, so we can keep it fresh and keep it new for everybody. Almost without exception, everybody that I've talked to has said that they really like the show. Some of them have been here the first time, some have been here for the 9th time. They said that it's a really great show. There were hardly been any problems at all, and which we like to see too from our own standpoint. But it's good. I think the response has been very favorable. The thing that I would consider a high point for the convention for me would be, at least so far, it's not over yet, getting the chance to be with the voice actors a little bit, because there's such a great group of people together. They play off of each other, and they're really lively and animated. That was really fun. That was really fun getting to see them. Things we have planned for next year is a lot of really cool stuff. Again, we'll be trying something different with the exclusives in the hotels. People have already started booking rooms for the hotel, which is amazing to me. I handle our website, so any updates that go up or special promotional things that go up, I handle all the emails, which during the height of the registration period and general and the initial information output, that can be hundreds a week. So it gets pretty hairy sometimes.
Every year we try to keep certain things the same. One of the main things we want to make sure is processing people quickly and rapidly, so they don't have to wait in line for anything, to pick up their toys, to get into the show, to get an autograph, to meet a guest. That's always the same. Every year you have to do something different, because if you don't, it's going to become stale and people are going to start expecting things to be just normal. I like to shake things up year to year by doing things in a surprising method or a surprising factor. When we did the pre-registration packs this year, we added a whole bunch of free stuff, like a free toy when you pre-registered, free print, a free lollipop from Rhino. So these are important things that I think that are there to make people aware of the fact that they shouldn't really rest on their laurels, and any year could be a really cool year. And of course, we're always going to try to make it better every year. The guest selection is kind of tough. We had come up with a list of guests, maybe numbering 4 or 5. What happened was more and more of the guests and their friends had actually contacted us. And they said, hey, we want to come. And I don't know how to say no, so we kept adding more and more. And they're a very close-knit group of people looking after each other. And ultimately, we got writers, producers, and the voice actors, and they all were willing to play ball with their appearance fees and such, because they all wanted to all come. So that was the cool thing. It's really a Robots in Disguise heavy year because of the show really being only valid for 1 year. Typically we try to introduce a lot of Generation 1 stuff, Beast Wars stuff, and then the current line. We brought Dick Gautier back from the Generation 1 stuff. Michael McConaughey, who played Trax and Cosmos in the old series, played some RID parts this year, so that's a great crossover. So we did get a little bit of a bleed over, but still it was primarily RID. Last year, we had some issues with Hasbro being there because they were closing down one of their offices and they were consolidating their workforce into their Pawtucket, Rhode Island facility. Up to that point, we had not received any sort of licensing from them. We were done more as not a favor, but kind of like a good marketing tool, but nothing any formal from their point of view. What we did this year was that one of the things that I thought was very important was I pursued the license to get it for the show, to make sure that we, and me specifically, were protected for doing the show. And because as it gets bigger, more and more issues come into play with societal issues, dealers, whatever you want. More and more degrees of freedom are coming into play, and you have to be protected. The incorporation of the company with a new company name, the licensing agreement altogether, was very important in doing that. Because we did that, and because Transformers is so hot, and most of the people at Hasbro in Pawtucket never went to a BotCon before, they all came out in force because it's a show of support for a good show. Transformers is hotter this year versus last year. I believe they had reported numbers of 66% increase in sales, if I remember correctly, which I think is a publicly known figure, because when you have a reintroduction of the toy line to include vehicles and some old Generation 1 re-releases to kind of incite this nostalgic thing that's overrunning America and the world at the moment, it's a stronger property that's more in tune with collectors as re-releases and little kids as vehicles compared to what they had with Beast Machines. I think the high points of this year's show are the Hasbro presentation. I think the voice actors and the writers and producers from RID were absolutely wonderful. I've never seen a nicer group of guys and their spouses who actually are also in the animation industry, just walking around and hobnobbing with the fans and such outside of their normal, areas and such. And it was just, they're having a lot of fun with each other and with everyone else around them, and they're infectious. I thought that was pretty good, and I thought the exclusive choices this year were pretty cool as well. I think a lot of people like some old characters reintroduced in some new, cooler, toy-looking forms, and I think in general people like and appreciate that type of thought put into a product. I have all the ideas for next year. We are having it in Chicago, Illinois. BotCon 2003 will be in Chicago, Illinois at the Hyatt Regency O'Hare at the last weekend of July. What we're doing as an incentive for people is you'll get a free Mint and Box exclusive toy when you book your hotel room and you stay in your hotel room. You can't buy it before, you can't buy it at, or you can't buy it after the show. You actually have to stay in the room. Once you stay in the room, you'll get a free Mint and Box exclusive that we've made specifically for that purpose to try to bring it into Chicago. We were trying to bring it into a major market city. The size of the show is such that there's some discrepancies between that. You have to be able to support the monetary issues with renting out the hall space and taking care of equipment with a small number of people in Chicago. This is how we're addressing it. When we plan the show, we get email all through the year. John actually gets that email. For the most part, well, we read all of it. For the most part, some of the comments, I would say most of the comments that people have are just based in the fact that they're not able to understand behind the scenes work of why we do certain things a certain way. And unfortunately, we can't really change. They may have good ideas, but there are other bigger issues at stake that we can't compromise to address those issues. However, if there's something we can do with minimal or maximal work, it doesn't matter. The workload to me is regardless. If it's a good idea, we'll implement it. We'll try it out. If it works, we'll keep it. If it doesn't, we tried it. You can't blame us for not trying. We're trying to make the best show out there for a toy line. It's a toy line convention. It's not just a dealer show. It is a convention with voice actors, activities, and a lot of things to do. And we just try to keep pushing the envelope every year.
I put him on the Hasbro table. Tim told me you guys said something funny. Especially maybe. How much did you pay for it? 50. And then I got. May I have your attention, please? I'll give it to you, but I have one single. Because he was like at school telling his teacher. My uncle's diabolical. Okay, you need to sit down for a minute. Yeah, I don't know.
This is more in-depth coverage.
Say hi.
Of course, that is the price guide. These have guides to the comic.
Come back in a little while. Painted the wings, glass, and everything. You know, in the back of that pack, that book you get, when you get
Bubbles on the inside are still tape for the rest of the plastic. He's going to be 40. They're both complete with the instructions.
All right, well, part of my job is to come up with the names of these things and or assign names to them. Amy on the end works with legal to make sure they clear it. Leader one was my way of kind of getting back some old equity that Hasbro bought from Kenner.
That was our experiment for this year. We hear so strongly that it's we went the other way. Something we'll look at for the future. But again, I didn't want to have to put only 3 words on there, for instance, in 3 languages to try to explain the tech specs. So trilingual is a direction we're moving for Armada and for our other kid-based series. Generation 1, we were able to just do one language, which was great. But I hear you. We're working on it. But unless the trilingual thing changes, which I don't think it's going to, we're trying to do better ways of doing the text specs.
Be more female characters in Armada or any other show.
None are planned for Armada.
Have your attention for just one moment. The rules that you all probably know by heart. If you brought in food, drink, any of that kind of stuff, enjoy it. But
there's a character in it's like the first play in which robots are mentioned, and there's a character in that play named Primus. He's like the first robot to attain humanity. And I was wondering if Primus from RUR is where you got the name for the Transformer God.
He wasn't sort of taken from anything. It just has that sort of the beginning type feel to it.
The Green White Queen.
President, what we've accomplished, and we appreciate everyone here. Thank you very much.
Just selling it. Don't need anything personal. All right. Would you sign mine? Oh yeah.
Thanks a lot.
You got it. Here we go.
There you go, buddy.
Thanks.
All right.
I'm a tank.
That's right. I'm a
tank. I'm tank.
I like to blow stuff up.
Is he doing his voice?
I don't know. I'm wrapped up and ready to go. Steve would like to know if you can come by his room later on and bring your camera. What's your name? Alan. Alan, how you doing, Alan?
I'm doing pretty good today.
Is that with an E in? A-N, okay.
Get out of there, you.
He's just bathing my face. Wait a minute. Rob, how you doing, Rob?
Well, this is only my second BotCon, so I really can't compare much. The dealer room is definitely a lot bigger than last year, which is really nice. I'm not getting shoved around quite so much.
This is my first BotCon, actually.
John, your hat.
Yeah. So I don't have much to compare to at all, but the dealer room's kind of nice. Overwhelming to the senses at first, but you get used to it. I'm really impressed by the accessibility of some of the personalities, celebrities, I guess you call them.
This is my second BotCon, so we always happen to just meet Simon Furman when he's out of his autograph session, so we were able to actually get him to sign our stuff ahead of time. The deals room is pretty cool. It's actually better this year because all the deals, people are actually not going to go out and grab it from you, and you can actually get what you want. So it's a nice, easy set of pace instead of last year. But yeah, all the guests are pretty accessible this year, so that's also a neat thing.
Not only is this my first BotCon, but it's my first convention, and I'm pretty pleased. I'm so happy at all the stuff I've been able to get. I got what I've wanted since I was a kid, And so I'm just thrilled to be here, and I'll be back.
The thing I like the most about BotCons is the people. You know, even the dealers. You know, you go up and you say hi, and you get to talk to them, and the celebrities, you get to go and talk, and a lot of them go and wander the convention after they're not autographing, so you can go up and say hi.
I've been collecting Transformers for about 7 years. I first started collecting when I found my brother's Shockwave, and then I decided that it would be kind of cool to get all the ones that I remember from when I was younger, and unfortunately it just branched from there to the point where I now run a toy store that sells a lot of Transformers and everything as well.
I've always been interested in sci-fi type stuff. Like when I was in first grade, it's just like getting dragons, you know, complaining about getting that instead of like the horses and posies for the folders when the teachers gave it out. It's the same type of thing. You know, you got heavy machinery here. You've got engineering, circuitry. It's just absolutely fun. You know, it's the same type of thrill you get when going by a train on the railroad. You know, when you get the conductor to honk the horn for you, it's just absolutely fun.
I got into Transformers, I think, when I was about 5 years old. My first toy was Jazz, I think. I had a couple of Headmasters when I was little. My dad he was like, oh, it's really cool. It's machine stuff, and he's really into all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I'm not really sure why I got into it, but I've always just been like, I don't know, the commercial clicks in my head. They're like, collect them all. So I had to. So that's why I'm still into it, I think.
I would be about 1984, 85. That's when I got started in the Generation 1. That's when I got started, when I was about 12 years old. What about you?
But I like about 8.
He's been in a couple years. I like to collect them. My favorite, of course, is Optimus Prime. You know, through the years, all the different Optimuses. And like Grimlock, too. He's one of my favorites.
Yeah, go ahead, take a look.
Well, currently I have opened up shop in a hotel, and I'm trading parts as well as selling the parts to other Transformer individuals who are just seeking that one last part they need to finish their collection of that one robot. So I will sell, right off the bat, this guy, just show this one piece to him, he offered $30 right off the bat. It's Japanese. Done. What is this? This is a spare missile. I'm not too sure. It could be a Diaclone Strange P.
It comes from like a motorcycle combiner, but I can't think what it's for.
Oh, I know that one. It's that oddball piece. I have it at home. Fast Track? Is that for Scorpion? Yeah. No, I have his guns though. Wait, I'm sorry. He keeps pushing in my box, and I keep having the parts.
Even plus?
That guy's 75, that one's 110, this one is 40, this one is 75, 400, 200, provide a set for 5.